41-31, your final score on Monday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers embarrassed in front of their home crowd, but not only are we not going to roll an intro for this week's show, Evan, 41-31, there's so much to unpack with this game. An embarrassing loss for the Bucs. I think the score is a little deceptive, a late game offensive surge there for Tampa Bay, but I was pissed off about the loss. We'll dive into it, but now I'm just depressed, I think, after the way that second half played out for the Buccaneers. Key injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Two of the most important wide receivers in the history of the franchise go down in the same night. Just a demoralizing performance when you talk about the trajectory of the Buccaneers season after a loss like this. Like, obviously, there's a lot of things to learn moving forward, and there's plenty of football left, but when you talk about what Mike Evans and Chris Godwin meant to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense so far this season, both of them were leading the NFL in touchdowns headed into this game, and now both of them potentially going to miss significant time for the Buccaneers, but they fall to 4-3 after a convincing win by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens on Monday Night Football. Tough night for Tampa Bay.
Really tough, and it was a tough game. Like you said, the final score, it's going to say it's a 10-point game. It was much more than a 10-point game. Bucs scored, a couple touchdowns, got the onside kick, scored another touchdown. So that helps pad things. But tough game, but I don't really think the storyline from this game isn't going to be anything really about the game. And we are going to break down the game, though. We are going to break that. That's what we're here for, right? We're gonna break down the game, the good, the bad, the ugly. But possibly the ugliest thing was Chris Godwin, right? And not only is it's one thing if that happens in the first quarter, okay, that's just bad luck. That is awful, right? It's another one that happens with 40 seconds left in a game you're down by 10. And that is a fireable offense from Todd Bowles. I'm not saying he will be fired, but that is a fireable offense. That is malpractice. That is pure negligence by a head coach of this football team to have him out there in a game, to have any starter out there, whether it's Baker Mayfield or Shaw White. I understand you can't put every backup offensive lineman out there, but to have any starter out there, skill position wise, in that game at that point was pure negligence. And you know what? Todd Bowles got what he deserved on that, because that's what you get when you try and do that. So now that guy's season's done. Chris Godwin's season is over. Okay, the broadcast, it was so bad the broadcast didn't even show it. He's gotten an error cast, got carded off immediately. We have a $2 super chat from Brutal as Bucs. Season is over. Trade Baker, fire Bowles, rebuild it. Wouldn't expect anything different from Brutal as Bucs. Appreciate the $2, Brutal. Really, really do. But it sucks, right? Because we'll talk about Mike Evans too. I don't think Mike Evans isn't going to be out for the season. I do think we're going to see Mike Evans out an extended period of time, but it won't be the season. But now Chris Godwin. Was that the last game he just plays a Buccaneer? Right? Like, when we can talk about this, I actually think him maybe being injured actually kind of helps his chances of being back next year. But this is now 2 major injuries he's had in the last 4 seasons. So it's a tough break, and it sucks for that guy. And it's the head coach's fault.
Absolutely. In a contract season, we've talked so much so far this year about how good he's been playing, what a vital part to this offense he has been, a revitalized role in this offense.
It's the best he's ever looked. It's the best he's ever looked.
No, you're right. There is not enough good things we can say about Chris Godwin this season, and to see him go down in that fashion. And then you think about last time, the recovery time for him, not only did he miss the rest of the season, but he wasn't exactly the same player for another season and a half, right? It took him a little while to get back to 100%. This year was the healthiest he had been in quite some time, and it clearly showed. But yeah, like you said, the Bucs definitely playing with fire there at the end of the game, and it's just we'll get into it. Thank you again to Brutal for the $2 super chat. Everybody's got opinions tonight. We would love to hear them. Phones are on 305-224-1968. The meeting ID on your screen, 747-973-0150. For Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, I'd say it was a tale of missed opportunities and a second quarter collapse that really snowballed this season. Really snowballed this thing. As we get another $2 super chat from Chris Higgins here. He said that win may have derailed a nice season. We'll dive into that topic, but thank you again, Chris. for the super chat going into the Wendy's fun there. Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay here, another textbook start. Like, let's just go ahead and start breaking this thing down from the top of the game. For the fourth week in a row, it is a textbook start for this Buccaneers team. You have an offense that is consistently moving the football. You find Mike Evans for a touchdown on the opening drive. Now, he does get up, looks a little bit hurt on the sideline, limps over there, shakes off the trainers. He's back in the game. He's running routes the next offensive series. So he's ultimately fine, works his way back into the game. The defense picks up back-to-back sacks on Lamar Jackson. I know they were moving the football a little bit, but right around midfield, they clamp down. They force Baltimore to punt. And then that was like the last time they punted. I think maybe ever. I don't know if they punted again throughout the rest of the game. Maybe once or twice at most. But it was offensive execution all night long for the Ravens. It was incredible because, again, the Bucs were consistently moving the football. Even the run game was getting involved. I think Liam Cohen was in his bag, especially with all three of these running backs early on. We got a good look at what this three-headed monster could look like. We saw, the strengths of a guy like Sean Tucker. Rashad White got involved in the pass game, won me my bet tonight on receptions, going over 2.5. And Bucky Irving was getting involved as well. Had a couple of big-time pass catches tonight. So the offense was rolling. And then just like last week, the second quarter comes around and everything just falls apart, Evan. I mean,
for the second straight week. For the second straight week.
This series of events, let me know if I'm missing anything. Not necessarily in this order, but everything included was a Tristan Wirfs holding call, quote-unquote holding call, which negates a Chris Godwin touchdown. Bucs would have gone up, or they would have had 17 points.
They would have gone up 14-0.
Yeah. It would have gone up 14-0. Excuse me. Thank you. And then you get the Mark Andrews touchdown. After that, Baltimore gets back on the board. Buccaneers take the ball back, march down the field, target Mike Evans in the end zone. It's a dropped pass. That's when the hamstring injury happens. And then 3 plays later, Baker Mayfield in the red zone. I call it paralysis by analysis. Other people have obviously said that as well, and I think that's exactly what happened here. Like we've seen in weeks past, kind of gets happy feet. Wasn't seeing his guys. There was a check down touchdown to Bucky Irving right there, and he missed him. Looks over to the corner of the end zone, looks for Jalen McMillan, throws an interception to Marlon Humphrey. The Ravens take the turnover. They score after more huge chunk plays, and then the Bucs get the ball back. Baker Mayfield throws another interception to Marlon Humphrey, looking for Chris Godwin. 2 interceptions and 3 passes tonight for the starting quarterback after that. The Ravens are able to score at the end of the first half, and then, they're able to score despite the numerous mistakes they had. Let's not forget that nightmare of events for Baltimore. They were in the red zone, and then it was penalty after penalty after penalty. And then they were able to put themselves in field goal position for Justin Tucker to nail a 50-plus yarder. So, yeah, it all started in the second quarter, and then it never really got better from there, despite what they were able to do in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and just a quick update. Todd Bowles says they think it's obviously not confirmed, but they think it's a dislocated ankle for Chris Godwin. So that would end his season. You're not coming back from a shattered ankle, especially 7 weeks into the season. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Again, we're going to have plenty of time. We're basically going to have all week to talk about this. So we do want to talk about the game. Look, the big turning point in this game, and I don't want to kick a man while he's down, but Mike Evans has to catch that football in the end zone. He just simply does. I originally thought he had it. The dude lands on his legs, and it was just so painful, right, that he dropped the ball. When you look at the replay, though, he drops it before there's ever any contact with the defender. He just dropped the ball. Ends up, instead of being a touchdown, it ends up being a Baker Mayfield interception. It's a bad read. I don't think he saw Marlon Humphrey. Just a bad read. But then the next one is an even worse read. And I'm sort of starting to see this with Baker, particularly this year. When things are going well for an entire game, they continue to go well. But when one thing goes wrong, he starts to kind of force things. The Denver game, they didn't get off to the greatest start. He throws a first quarter interception, never got off the ground, right? But against Washington and against Detroit, he was pretty good for the entire game. Against Philly, pretty good for the entire game. Against Atlanta, pretty good for the entire game. Last week in New Orleans was the exception. They were able to sort of regroup themselves after that crazy second quarter and get back to it. This week they couldn't do that, and it just seems like when Baker Mayfield's going good, it's going good. When one thing goes bad, though, he starts to force things, and that's not how you need to play in the NFL.
Well, and we even talked about it on that post-game show after the win in New Orleans, that second quarter collapse. You cannot get away with that against some of these great teams in the NFL. And tonight, we saw a clear difference between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what one of the best teams in the NFL looks like. After tonight, Lamar Jackson, astonishingly, 23-1 in his career against NFC teams. So I think if the Bucs only play NFC teams for the rest of the year, that should help their chances. But I mean, the Ravens are one of the best, and the difference was clear tonight. Let's get to the phones. We got a couple of people on hold. Appreciate you guys. From the 813 to kick things off, who's this?
Hey, what's going on? It's BK Jackson, man, calling you guys. I'm actually hanging out in Jacksonville now, but yeah, there we go.
How you doing, BK?
You really want to know the answer to
that? Well, how are you feeling after this game? What is your first thoughts and emotions when you think about this game?
Oh man, I'll tell you, they're all over the place, and it's really contingent upon what you think about, right? I think this loss, as much as everything kind of fell down. I know Evan just made the point about Mike Evans, not catching the ball. I don't even consider that first interception on Baker. Like I'm not going to hang too much on that one. But the point about Baker basically being a snowball after everything that happens gets worse, and when we're good, we're rolling. Just getting off to that good start, I just assumed that was what was going to happen. But man, it was times in this game that I really couldn't tell if I was watching Baker Mayfield or if we were, back with Jameis Winston. Like it was just like, it was bad to watch. What I noticed most about it, because in the broadcast you can't really see, so I don't know what Baker's looking at as it relates to the down the field, is Baker took a lot of sacks that I can't give to the O-line because he held the ball for so long, because I think at a point he was just second guessing what he even thought he was seeing. I didn't think he believed what he saw. It was like he was seeing ghosts out there, at some point. The biggest thing I could say, and this is always going to be my biggest quarterback IQ test, is, do you believe in your checkdowns? On both, when we missed Bucky on the interception, on the first touchdown interception that happened, but then Cade Otton was wide open with about 5-6 yard separation, easy first down. Let's keep this ball going. And it's just, where's the balance between the checkdowns? Like, we never had a checkdown problem with Tom Brady, and I never even thought about checking the ball down until I saw Tom Brady play for 3 years in a Tampa Bay Buccaneer uniform. So there was that. But if we cross over to the other side of the grass and we talk about the defense, Jordan Whitehead got cooked today, like cooked today. Like, I haven't seen our defensive back get that cooked since, what game was it when Carlton Davis got cooked? Like, he just basically cost us the game last year. Like, it was bad. It was bad. Why did Bowles put Jordan Whitehead into coverage protection after it was just lick after lick after lick? Even on the bomb down to Bateman, I think if you watch that clip, you could see 31. I'm looking right at him. But you can see, who's the other safety? 31.
Winfield.
Looking right at him. Yes, obviously, Antoine Winfield.
Who also had a rough night.
Yeah, but you could see him pointing his hand to the right, like, bro, you should have had that. You should have caught over, bro. You should have got over. And he didn't. He had single high up top and never got over for that particular route. I think that those two, if we're talking just players, and then after that, what I would notice about this team is so goes Baker, so goes the Bucs. It is what it is. When Baker's doing good, the energy happens contagious on both sides. When it's going bad, like the defense, even energy wise, just I really can't necessarily put it. It wasn't necessarily that they weren't trying. It wasn't just things just really weren't going their way, and it was very difficult to watch down the stretch because we let this get away from us. Like I don't know how good we are because we played so bad against a team that we know. Like we you guys said it. We go 1-3. We still got a shot at the playoffs. So it's not like we walked into this game thinking we were going to win. I just did not expect to lose my number one and number two wide receiver, which coaching is the last part of this. But I definitely didn't expect to get whooped in this game.
And
I thought we were better than that.
And to get whooped like that after a start the way that they had out of the gate, you're 10-0 here in the first quarter, and they were effectively running the football against the NFL's best rush defense. Like there was a lot to feel good about after that first quarter, and then it just started to unravel. And I tell you this as well, another point you had mentioned was, the energy of the team, the offense and the defense. Man, energy and momentum is a very real thing in the NFL, and when Mike Evans went down with that hamstring injury, it wasn't just the team, it was the entire stadium. And then when they went to commercial break after the Chris Godwin injury, I think that's the most quiet I've ever heard Raymond James on a TV broadcast. So I couldn't imagine, I mean, most of the fans had left anyways, but I couldn't imagine how quiet it was in that stadium, after Chris Godwin goes down. So yeah, the momentum, all of the energy that the crowd had, the team had in that first quarter, I think all of it was just completely sucked out of them as soon as Mike Evans left that game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree 100%. I think the last point I'll say is not even a point for this particular broadcast. I'm sure you guys are gonna make a probably a special broadcast after this, and we'll deal with this after next week. I don't know. The season's not over. I honestly believe, and I think I heard one of you guys say it. If we can get Rashad White into some type of Deebo Samuel's type of role, even with Godwin not coming back this year, we get Mike Evans. We figure out how to Deebo Rashad White. I do believe that this could really tweak and make the offense a different look that may give us. I'm just savaging in case we win next week. Because we lose next week, it's time to start looking at this NFL draft. It's what it is. But I'll sit back and listen to you guys. Thanks, as always, for the content. Always subscribing, always liking. Big fan. Keep it up, guys.
BK, appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
You too.
BK Jackson. He played in Prince's band for a little while.
Sick.
He was a touring musician with Prince.
Awesome.
I don't know if he tells people that, but hopefully I didn't blow up his spot. Let's hammer out these calls from the 615. You've been on hold for a little while. Thank you guys for holding. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast. Who's this?
This is Dagan. I'm just calling from South Illinois.
How you doing, my friend?
How you doing?
Oh, not great.
I hear you.
I just wanted to, I feel like this is the kind of game that makes you hate football, Poorly officiated, injuries on both sides. It was really never close, but the thing that I feel like worries me most is, are we sure that we have a defensive-minded head coach?
Yeah, it's it's something to where this defense, we'll get into this too, but the defense so far this year, I mean, I think it's a combination of Bowles' scheme not being so good, but also I don't know if he has, the exact horses needed, to run the defense, but at the same time, you would like your defensive-minded head coach, right, to try to come up with some ways to overcome some of the maybe lack of talent on that side of the ball.
Yeah, we talked about this before the start of the season, and we kind of knew the depth along the defensive line was going to be an issue. You're relying on a lot of young guys to step up. So the pass rush was already something that we talked about. But Evan, you brought up this Todd Bowles scheme kind of getting exposed by some of these teams who can effectively pass the ball or extend time in the pocket. When the Bucs aren't getting any pressure, when the blitz isn't getting there, it is just brutal. I mean, they are giving up a ridiculous amount of yardage, and these guys, these aren't even contested catches. Like, guys are just wide ass open, and it reminds you of the days of the Mike Smith defense under Dirk Cutter, where, you know, these guys are playing such soft coverage that every single completion is a wide receiver with nobody around him for 5 yards. I mean, the coverage is soft, the tackling is soft on top of that, and I think on top of all of that, this defense has this uncanny ability to allow the slowest guy on the field to be the most wide open. I mean, Mark Andrews had a big time night tonight, 2 touchdowns for him. And then was it their fullback or their tight end, their third string tight end, number 42? He probably would have had a 30-yard grab if he didn't drop it wide ass open in the middle of the field. But it has become repetitive at this point. When the Bucs can't apply pressure to a quarterback, they're getting cooked.
Yeah, and what really does not make sense to me is I feel like Bowles has made an effort to bring in players in the secondary that are secure tacklers. And we have Vita Vea at nose tackle. Why do we not play more dime? It is proven that KJ Britt is a liability in coverage, and Levante is not so great himself because he's getting up there in age. I don't see why with as sure a tacklers as I feel like we have in the secondary, why we don't run more dime.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of tough spots the defense was in tonight too. I mean, we can talk about their poor performance, but I hate to bring up special teams. Like, I really do hate to be that guy, but Evan, did you notice how often the Ravens had great starting field position tonight? It seemed like most of their offensive possessions were starting from right around the 40-yard line, damn near midfield. So, you know, the defense was rough, and I think teams are starting to find ways to continually exploit a Todd Bowles defense. He's clearly going to have to make some adjustments here, but, I mean, I don't know. When I start thinking about the trajectory of the rest of this season, man, it kind of bums me out from where we go from here. But my friend, we appreciate your call. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
Maybe Devontae will get set up with the Jets and request a trade to Tampa.
There you go. Maybe we get a big time trade for Myles Garrett and we get some pass rush help. That actually
can he play receiver?
I guess you're right.
Probably.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
Appreciate it. Go Bucs.
All right, let's hammer out some more calls. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on hold. We're going to make sure we get to all of you. You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Who's this?
You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Who's this? You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Who's this?
Yep. Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, brother. Got to keep your head on a swivel, kid. All right, let's get to our next one from the 813. Thank you for holding. Who's this?
Yo.
Yo.
You call me the Big D. I mean, no, not the Big D, not the Big D. My bad.
How you feeling,
You
my
call
friend?
me, shit. My bad for cussing.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I just don't get it. I just feel like ripping my shirt off right now. Like, can I do that real quick?
Sure.
All right, hold up. Ugh. Yeah, I just don't get it. My bad. I'm just fuck, bro. Our season's over, right? Just say it. Just say it.
Yeah. Oh.
Live podcasting.
From the 561.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Here he is. I've been waiting on it.
All I got to say is hand Chris Godwin a blank check and pay him whatever he wants. That's the only way he's coming back next year. Go Bucs, guys.
Go Bucs. We appreciate your insight. Yeah, I agree. I think for Tampa Bay, like, you obviously have a very tough situation you find yourself in with Chris Godwin. You mentioned how maybe the injury helps you out a little bit, but you're really gonna have to take care of this guy in the long run, because I don't know.
But at the same time, you got to do what's best for the football team.
Yeah, it's a
term,
business,
right?
It's a business. But damn, dude, he just bad situation all around. He shouldn't have been out there. You got to take care of your guy. And very tough.
I agree. And Al Bundy in the chat says Godwin is going to get $30 million per next contract. I don't know that now.
Not after not coming off of a shattered ankle.
Two major injuries in the last 4 years. Like, I don't know. He's 29. Like, I don't know. Or he's gonna be 29. It's one of those two things. I don't know. He very well could. Look, the market's the market. But I mean, look, they had a lot of Ayuk got 30 million. Ayuk was healthy. Like, Ayuk wasn't coming off of a shattered ankle. So look, it's there was a lot of missed opportunities in this game, right? We talk about the red zone interception. We talk about the holding call, right? That negates a touchdown. You had to settle for 3 there. A lot of missed opportunities on defense to get off the field, right? And it was even like there would be these 3rd and longs. And like the one time the Ravens were out of field goal range. It was a 3rd and 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Ravens get 18. And I understand what they're trying to do. You're trying not to give it up. I get it. You're playing off coverage. Whatever. That's fine. But you have to have some sort of idea of what the Ravens are going to try to do there. And they got 18 yards. Were able to kick the field goal, the 52-yarder. And then Chase McLaughlin, misses the 55-yarder. I would have just rather taken my chances trying to get the 4th and short conversion. To be honest, I just, with the wind how it was, I don't like those odds. So there was a lot of opportunities in this game for the Buccaneers to try and take control, but it didn't happen. And I think we have to have just like that one caller had mentioned. I think you have to have a discussion about this defense now. This defense is bad. Like, it's that simple.
626. Who's this?
What's up, guys? Richard T. from the West Coast.
What's up, Richard?
A very solemn Richard T.
Damn, guys! Like, dude, it feels like a woodpecker was just like pecking away at my fucking face for 2.5 hours, watching this godforsaken defense.
It wasn't a woodpecker; it was a raven.
Hey, let's just keep it the analogies, Dude, Todd Bowles, he's a defensive-minded coach. You guys, like 500 yards. It's like Saints went to the Ravens and said, "Hey, you got us, bro." They're like, "Yeah, we got you," and then just put on full-on revenge for the Saints on us. It's ridiculous. And then what's sad was that you have Mike Evans with his historic 100th receiving touchdown, all for it to be, on a bad game where he gets injured like 10 minutes later. Just everything that went wrong went bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we showed a little life at the end. Yay, we hit 30 points. Okay. But I think Evan Klosky when he does his Locked On Bucs with James Yarko, he was saying, and I agree with him now, just throw this game away. Like, don't focus on this game. Focus on Atlanta. And let's see what happens to that.
Tough to do though when at the end of the game you lose your second best wide receiver in a game where you've already lost your first one. So it's not going to be, and Mike Evans is probably going to be out for a little bit, right? And that's I think you're looking at these next 3 games. I mean, your season is on the line next week versus Atlanta. I mean, if you lose that game, your season is over. And it's not going to be easy without those 2 guys.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of good points, Richard. But just like Evan said, all the storylines that come out of this game are just overshadowed by Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, their injury status, and their role in this offense not going to be there for the next couple. Said before, that's the wonder of live podcasting. Sometimes you have a catastrophic failure, just like the Bucs did on Monday Night Football, and you have to break the show up into 2 parts. Good God. So appreciate you guys on our chat. We are going to get to our calls. Apologies to Richard T. from the West Coast. had to cut him off there, but let's hammer out the rest of these calls. 208, maybe our final call of the night. Who is this?
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chris.
Chris,
How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you guys?
Could be better.
Yeah, same.
What's going on?
Oh my goodness. Just man, it's just that was a lot to take in, Hot start. Mike goes down. Lamar and Baltimore really take over, and then the end there. I don't know if any, we were down 10, and I don't know if anyone has brought this up yet, but under the new rule, you can only kick 2 onside kicks, and we had already kicked ours, both of them. So if we ended up scoring there at the end, we would have then been down by 3, and I'm pretty sure, we had no timeouts left, so they would have just ran out the clock. So it's pretty tough that's a hard pill to swallow.
So I have seen that going around. Peter Schrager, actually, of Fox Sports and NFL Network, actually did clarify that a little bit. Said there is no limit to onside kicks being attempted. However, it has to be in the fourth quarter, and you have to be trailing. But other than that, you can do as many onside kick as you'd like. One of the rule proposals this past offseason had a limit of 2 onside kick attempts, but it didn't pass. So I do believe they would have been able to have another onside kick. I know that was going around shortly after the game. Peter Schrager seems to think that was.
Okay.
You still there? I don't know if we lost Evan or not, but I can still hear you on the phone. We're still live.
Oh, if you could still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's Evan that broke down this time. It was my computer before, now it's his. But yeah,
I am the co-host now.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome. All right. Well, any final thoughts while we wait for Evan to reconnect here?
Nah, man. I mean, that's just tough to swallow. There are a couple things that went wrong, and realistically, that we don't miss that field goal. It is a 7-point game, and maybe at the end there it's worth it. But it might have derailed a nice season. But that was tough.
Let me ask you, I'll turn the tables on you. Let me ask you just your thoughts on Todd Bowles after a game like this. I know everybody's got every kind of opinion about him. People already felt the way they felt about Todd Bowles headed into this year. I think most of the people who didn't like him haven't liked him for quite some time. But I think there's going to be a lot of conversation this week about how he handled that fourth quarter, especially with the Bucs being down as far as they were and leaving the starters in there.
I was going to say that in the beginning. I was going to be like, if you thought the fire Todd Bowles conversation was over,
yeah,
it's not anymore. It's tough. I mean, as a competitor, and maybe even Godwin and some of those guys were like, no, we want to stay out. It's tough because you do want to win. But I guess hindsight's 20/20. If Godwin's fine, maybe we are sitting losing by 3 or nothing happened, but I'm not too fond of that move. I think they probably should have pulled him, kind of live to fight another day thing. So, it's not up to me at the end of the day. Whatever's going to happen is whatever's going to happen. But I'm not a big fan of Todd Bowles right now.
Yeah, I hear you. That's fair enough.
You're not alone.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of different sides to the argument, but you'll hear the Fire Bowles crowd loud and clear this week. My friend, we appreciate you filling in while Evan got reconnected, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night. Go Bucs.
All right. Go Bucs.
All right, we got one last call here, Evan, before we wrap things up.
Appreciate everybody calling in. We know it's very late, so appreciate everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys for staying up with us. Who's this?
Thank you guys for staying up with us. Who's this?
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Who's this?
Yes, this is Josh from Kentucky.
Josh, how you doing, man?
Yes, this is Josh from Kentucky.
I'm doing good, man. Obviously, Chris going down, just that's killer, but the defense as a whole is just really, especially against the run, it's tough going from this, from the Tom Brady years. But as soon as Mike went down, the feeling in my stomach just went down. I knew we were going to lose this game. It's unfortunate with the whole the offense as a whole. And, I don't know.
No, you don't have many words, and you're not going to be alone, right? It's not. Look, you're not the only one that had that sort of pit in their stomach. I think when Mike Evans goes down, and then to make matters worse, later in the game when it's completely unnecessary and the game's finished, Chris Godwin goes down. So you're definitely not alone.
The Chris injury is the one that really sent me over the top.
Yeah.
Because with 40 seconds left in the game or whatever it was, there's no reason to have your starters out on the field in that situation, especially with the game coming up against Atlanta. I don't know. It's just, I'm devastated right now, especially with the Chris injury and the Mike injury.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just a loss for words,
Evan and I were kind of talking about the injury thing before we started the show. And one of the biggest things for the Bucs in this game, we talked about how important the game was kind of being beside the point, but getting out of it healthy was a huge thing. It seemed like this weekend there were just so many teams, so many star players brutalized with injuries and season-ending injuries at that. You kind of hope the Bucs could come out of this thing in one piece, and unfortunately we saw the effects of it tonight on Primetime. But Josh, we appreciate you, my friend. We're going to wrap it up here with one more call, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. I keep saying last call, but we keep getting people who call. So we appreciate you guys staying up late with us. 562, who's this?
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is a Buck Wild from Hawaii.
Buck
Hey,
Wild.
how you doing?
One of our
All the way
moderators.
from Hawaii.
How you doing?
What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
It's going, man. It's going. It's barely, 6 p.m. right now. And, I couldn't watch the game because they didn't show it live here. But I was, with Mr. Bucks Nation, with James, just doing what I do as a moderator. But, man, for me, our guys are still in there. Our team is still fighting. We're 4-3 in the South. The whole division lost this whole week in week 7, and we still got it. I just don't understand why everybody is calling for Bowles' head. He's still doing what he's doing. He's putting our players exactly where they need to be. We just need to look at our players, the guys that are starters, supposed to be the number one players on the field, but they are foobarring, oh my God.
Well,
man,
here's my thing.
I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys. I'm trying to hold down everything I can, in our chat, boosting everybody. Come on.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Here's my thing. You say, about Todd Bowles, putting the guys where they need to be. I don't know if they need to be out there down 10 with 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That's where I think you're going to see most people say fire Bowles. Right now, it's fresh, right? And they're going to blame him. I do get it, right? But it does, just like we talked about earlier, it makes next week against Atlanta. They have to win that football game. They simply have to.
Definitely.
And now it just got 10 times more difficult.
And I think, on top of that, the magnifying lens for Todd Bowles gets that much larger because people are now looking at the things that this defense does not do well. And it does beg the question, when you have a defensive-minded head coach and
what does he even do?
Right, your defense is getting worse week after week. I know health plays a major factor. Player execution plays a major factor. But a lot of the criticisms that people have against Todd Bowles as a head coach, some of them haven't changed. You know what I mean? Some of the clock management issues are still there. Some of the defensive scheme and defensive matchup and lack of defensive adjustment, a lot of that stuff is still there. So I think people are just going to be paying extra close attention to that this time of year, especially.
Totally agree. Totally agree on that. And you guys cut off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, totally agree with that. I agree with the fan base. I mean, it's split right now. Some are on, hey, still there with Bowles. I would say majority are calling for it, which is fine. let's give them this season. Let's give them to the end of the season. And let's see where it goes. If it doesn't pan out the way we all hope to be, I mean, Jason Light, he brought everybody back. He got the right guys. You know, Baker is, I think for Baker, you know, he's a QB that I see right now that we have. First season, he took us to the playoffs. You know, that is far more better than the past number one draft that we had. You know, he's doing what he's got to do, but I think he still got to learn about composure. You know, still got to stop feeding or force feeding, you know, the balls into where it's really tight. And I was really hoping to look forward to the Buck and Tuck show tonight, you know, for Bucky and Irvin, because they were pounding the ball. Why change it? Keep feeding the ball to those rock pounders. Let them run the ball. Let them just get the yardage.
Yeah,
when they start changing it, you know, when they start changing it for whatever reason to throw the ball while we have the opportunity just to pound it, because it looks like Raven was playing the passing game instead of the running game on defense, and that's what I was reading off of the chat and what everybody was going off of the, you know, the live that we had. Yep. But again, hey guys, man, appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the chat. The chat's in there. Hey, hang in there, guys. We 4-3. It's still our destination, man. We still got it. You know, thank you guys. And like I said, man, go Bucs. Keep your head up there, Evan.
Go Bucs.
We still got it.
Buck Wild, we appreciate you, my friend. The moderator wrapping us up on the calls for the evening. Evan, final thoughts here as we wrap up our post-game edition of the Cannon Fire podcast. The Buccaneers 4-3, maybe the most important game of the season so far next week against the Atlanta Falcons. Without a doubt, I mean, there isn't another game on the schedule that I think dictates more how the rest of this season is going to go. I mean, this is going to decide whether you are playing for another division title or you are chasing a wild card out of a weak division, which nobody loves to do, especially as more teams here start to heat up and the NFL season gets going.
I mean, and look, you're looking at the wide, like we're like, oh, okay, well, if they don't win a division, they might be able to get a wild card. Look at some of the other teams. The NFC North has every team with an above 500 record.
Yeah.
Like, there is no guarantee that you're getting a wild card. So, like, I'm not right here saying the Bucs season is over. However, I will say if they lose to Atlanta next week, I think their season's done. Because if they lose to Atlanta, they're probably not beating Kansas City, especially without, you know, Chris Godwin, likely without Mike Evans. They're probably not beating San Francisco without Chris Godwin, likely without Mike Evans. And yes, the schedule gets a little bit easier after the bye week. But again, you're not going to have some of these guys here that you thought you were going to have. And there's more injuries that could happen. Like, there's more things that can happen. Anything can happen here. So, you know, look, I'm not going to count them out yet, right? Last year, they had a must-win game in Atlanta last year, right? They had to have the game, and they won that game, you know, and then they went on to win the division. That was a massive game. This year, it's another game where they have to have it against Atlanta. They just simply do, or else I don't see how they're going to pull themselves out of this. I don't see how 4-4 you're going to be able to pull yourself out of it with the stretch that they have here. One positive that I will say about this game, the only positive that I think I can say about this game right now, is I think it was extremely encouraging the way they ran the football. I think they ran it a little bit too much at times. I think they were relying on the run a bit too much. But I do think it was encouraging how effective they were running the football against the Ravens defense that was very good. Like, I think the Bucs in the first half had well over, 59 yards, and that's how much the Ravens give up on average per game. So that's one thing that was encouraging. I think you're starting to see this team become a much better running football team, and guess what? They're going to need to do it more now that you're in this situation that you're in. So, like I said, prayers out to Chris Godwin. Hopefully Mike Evans is back sooner rather than later. I don't know. The Bucs don't know yet. But again, it's all hands on deck for this week because you simply cannot afford a loss this next Sunday. It can't happen.
I agree 100%. We saw on Monday Night Football, again, kind of the precursor of what the Buccaneers' 3 running back backfield could look like with a healthy Rachaad White back in the lineup. Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving getting involved as well. You hope that they can kind of lean on that here over the next couple of weeks and take advantage of some weaker NFL run defenses. I mean, you still got some damn good teams on your schedule, so it's not going to be easy. But on top of that, Cade Otton as well, another bright spot for the Buccaneers tonight. I know it was crunch time. I know it was garbage time yards, whatever you want to call it. 8 receptions for 100 yards for the big man, and he also took some abuse tonight. Holy hell, Baker threw him some hospital passes. But he was making some plays, and that's the thing about Cade Otton sometimes in games like this, whether the Bucs are playing from behind or they're playing in a hurry-up offense, whenever they have to pick up the pace and kind of find some tempo on the offensive side of the ball, or they have to try and score and move the football late in these games, they're using Cade Otton. And at times tonight, he looked like a bona fide tight end one, and that's going to bode well moving forward too, I think.
Just what you said, though, man. Baker set him up a couple of times. And there was actually one time where it was an incompletion. It was a big hit. I think that Kyle Hamilton had on Otton. It was incomplete. It wasn't a penalty. It was shoulder to shoulder. It was just a big hit. Mayfield has and this is I know we're talking about Otton. I'm bringing it back to Mayfield, but he has the check down open. It's 1st and 10.
Yeah.
He has the check down open for an easy 6-7 yards, and instead he tries to play this hero ball and force the ball downfield and nearly gets Cade Otton decapitated. Like, Kyle Hamilton almost took his head off. Like, you gotta be smarter than that. And this hero ball stuff, when things aren't going well, has to stop.
Yeah.
The check down is it's not your enemy. Like, it is your friend, especially in that situation when you're just trying to move the football. And Mayfield, when things aren't going well, he has to do a better job of doing those little things like that to try and get yourself back into the football game.
You just need him to calm down. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Time and time again, we've said that, like,
really
a lot
quick,
of times when
$5 super chat here from Too Many Clamps. I've seen Baker almost prefer second and third string receivers and the galvanize and look good. Not saying they are better than Godwin and Evans. So, I mean, you're trying to make the case, right? That, look, with basically what Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard. Those are going to be your 3, moving forward. A massive opportunity for both McMillan and Palmer, by the way, especially with Godwin, being a pending free agent. This could determine maybe the future of Chris Godwin. How likely are the Buccaneers to bring him back if McMillan or Palmer step up? So that's what he's basically saying, that, sometimes Baker does better. But look, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are 2 great football players. Your offense just got worse. Like, your offense just got worse without those 2. Regardless of how you may feel, Baker Mayfield may or may not play without, certain receivers. You may be able to get away with that for a game or 2, but over a long stretch of time, which it looks like it's going to be, for Godwin definitely, but Godwin and Evans, it looks like it's probably going to be, I would say, until at least the end, after the bye week for Mike Evans. I think that's where you get exposed, and that's something they got to try to avoid, because right now things are looking bleak for this Buccaneers team.
Yeah, these NFL players, these quarterbacks, they got their pre-game traditions. Baker Mayfield, he's got his smelling salts, right? They get him amped up, locked in before the game. Games like this, give that motherfucker a blunt and a Xanax at halftime, and just tell him to.
I mean, he was popping Zins on the sideline.
I mean, tell him to relax, because that's what it boils down to. It's the happy feet, scrambling around, trying to make a play when nothing is there, extending the play. Sometimes forcing an unnecessary turnover when you're looking for Jalen McMillan in the red zone. You miss the check down, you throw an interception that changes the course of the game. Sometimes you just got to get rid of the football.
And Mikey Kelly brings up something in the chat too. Mike Evans' streak will end. The 1,000-yard streak will be over unless the hamstring injury isn't as bad. Maybe he misses a week and then comes back and just goes crazy, barring anything unexpected. Yes, the Mike Evans 1,000-yard streak is likely over. So there's a lot of things that cost the Buccaneers tonight, and it is a real shame. But now you got to find a way to move forward as best you can, and it's just not going to be easy.
Yeah, Mike Evans gets his 100th career receiving touchdown, and everything goes to shit. So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that was the turning point for this game. And again, a disappointing loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Does not even begin to describe this game against the Baltimore Ravens. 41-31, your final score. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this late night edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Want to thank everybody who hung out with us live on YouTube today and everybody who called into the show. BK Jackson, Buck Wild, our buddy, Richard T. from the West Coast. Thank you guys very much. Thank you to everybody in chat for holding it down, all the moderators doing your job, and all the new people that we had. Again, consider subscribing for more Tampa Bay Buccaneers coverage. Hopefully, we get some happier news here within the next couple of weeks. But it is an uphill battle for Tampa Bay. So any injury updates that we get, of course, we will keep you updated throughout the week as well. And stay tuned for best and worst players, betting the Bucs, players to watch, and, of course, more great coverage throughout the week. As it is a short week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are getting ready to play on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week?
Gonna have the day after reactions, and boy, oh boy, are we gonna have a lot of them. It's gonna be something I'm gonna have to sort of sift through and pick and choose, because I feel like if I did most of the reactions, the article would be 10 pages long. So we're gonna have that, and then like you said, it's a short week, so it's a quick turnaround. You're going to be on to Atlanta before you know it. So that game is going to be here quickly, and also on Bucs Nation are going to be covering the Falcons game. Like I said, a quick turnaround. Basically Tuesday, Ravens, and then you're on to Atlanta pretty much. So stay tuned to BucsNation.com for all that coverage, and then of course, like you mentioned, the YouTube coverage that we have here, best and worst, betting the Bucs, which betting the Bucs, I believe, went 3-1 this week. Hit the over. Hit the Baker Mayfield over passing yards, hit the Lamar Jackson over passing yards, and unfortunately, and it sucks that we're talking about this guy, but was one Chris Godwin catch away from going 4-0. That last catch was 7, and I believe I had it at 7.5. I think.
I thought you got it at 6.5 because
maybe. Well, that's maybe 4-0.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I tailed betting the Bucs this week, and I was 7 for 8 tonight on my. I had 2 parlays. I'll just run it through you now. I had a 4-bet parlay plus 1,100, $10 to win 153 with my 30% profit boost added. Thank you, sir.
It was 6.5. Okay,
so
4-0.
I had CG over 6.5 receptions. I had Bucs to win. I had Baker over 23.5 pass completions, and I had Rashad White over 2.5 receptions. The Bucs did not win, so that one did not hit. But the other ticket that I had was a winner, chicken dinner, $10 to win $92.50 with a 10% profit boost applied. Bucs over 49.5 total points in this game. Baker Mayfield over 258.5 passing yards. Lamar over 226.5 passing yards. And then Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions. So yeah, if you tailed betting the Bucs this week,
there we
go. You were a winner.
It does suck. It does suck that that's the one that he hit the bet with. But speaking of betting the Bucs, basically the point is betting the Bucs will be out this week for the Atlanta Tampa game, and then also players to watch. So normally scheduled coverage here on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you listening on audio. But if you want a little bit more Bucs coverage throughout the week, head over to the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel.
Perfect time as we wrap up here to tell you about our good friends at betonline.ag. How about that? We bring up our parlays and talk about BetOnline. They have been the longest sponsor, the longest tenured sponsor this podcast has ever had, our good friends over at betonline.ag. They have sponsored our show since 2020. So almost 5 years of coverage brought to you by betonline.ag. You can go check out their website today and sign up with promo code Bleav, BLEAV, and get your first-time deposit bonus. I believe they will match your first-time deposit up to $100. Once again, promo code Bleav, BLEAV. And when the games are all over, you can go check out their online casino if that's something you're into as well. Slot games, table games, blackjack, roulette, anything you need, they've got you covered. BetOnline.ag. The game starts and continues over there. Make sure you check out their website. Proud sponsor of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you on Wednesday for the midweek show. Hopefully we get an update on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they look ahead to an NFC South battle with the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk to you then. Thank you as always.
Until then, as always.
Yeah, we'll talk to you then. Thank you as always for listening.
It's late. It's
very late.
12:30.
It's very late. Thank you, folks. Have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. As always, go Bucs.